You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. This week, my guest is newly retired MLB pitcher Josh Lindblom. In 2008, Josh was drafted in the second round of the MLB draft by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Over the course of his 15-year professional career, Josh played for 6 Major League Baseball teams and 2 teams in the KBO League in Korea, where he was named the KBO's most valuable player in 2019. Josh recently announced his retirement from pro baseball in mid-January. We talked a couple weeks after, and I asked him about his decision to step away from playing a sport that's been part of his life for 30 years. That question led us down a path to a deeply personal conversation where we talked about far more than baseball. We discussed family, parenting, leadership, and everything Josh has learned from a career that's taken him and his family across the globe. Josh shared practical lessons on how to navigate change, excel in new environments, ways to succeed even when you aren't at your best, and so much more. After we were done recording, Josh said something that I want you all to hear. He told me his career wasn't just about him pulling the tarp. His career was the product of so many others who pulled the tarp for him. Family, friends, teammates, coaches, front office personnel, and concession workers, grounds crew, media, fans, and more. So much more than him alone. We are all the product of countless others, people we know, and many we may not even know, who are out there pouring their heart and soul into helping us reach our dreams. And that, friends, is what it's all about. So let's pull the tarp and get straight to Josh Lindblom. Josh, I'm so excited to dig into your career, but I've got to believe that especially the last few weeks, you've been doing a lot of reflection and thinking about your time in baseball and what's to come. Talk for a minute about the process of thinking through that retirement. What went into the decision to step away from professional baseball, and how did you navigate that process?
Yeah, it's actually been good because I think more people have wanted to talk to me now that I'm retired than when I actually was playing. So podcasts like this have been great for me to think through it even more. But, I joke around and I say, I knew that I was done last February heading into spring training. And just the reflection, I'm a father of 4, and this was my 15th year of playing professional baseball. And just being away from them, I have this very vivid memory of the summer. My grandfather passed away and I got to come home for a week, and I'm on the fields with my kids and I'm hitting ground balls before. I think our daughter had a softball game. Son had a baseball game, and I'm on the fields that I grew up playing on with my kids in the summertime. And the first summer that I've been home for over a week in 15 years, probably longer than 15 years. And I just kind of knew in that moment, I was like, this is what I want to be doing. I want to be with my kids. And mentally, I wasn't finished with the season, but I knew that I was done playing in that moment.
It's so interesting, Josh. I can visualize you standing on that field, hitting those ground balls to your kids. And I'm thinking about a lesson somebody shared with me before my first of 2 daughters was born. I have 2 young girls. And somebody said, think about how many summers you have with your kids in your home. The average person, has, let's say, 18 summers with their kids in their home, maybe 21 if they come back, they go to college and come back home in between semesters. And they said, Andrew, it will really make you think critically about how you allocate time. And it'll show you how finite time is. And I'm sure you had a moment like that where you realized that there's something more here.
Yeah, for sure. I've never heard it said that succinctly, but it makes you think as a dad, you only have a limited amount of time with your kids. And, it got to the point in my life where, when they were 4 and 5, I hate to say this, but they don't really have lives. Like they don't have friends, they don't have activities, like they haven't started to meet people. But so our kids are 9, 8, 6, and 18 months. And so like our 9-year-old, our 8-year-old, and our 6-year-old up to this point, like it got to the point where it wasn't fair to them anymore that, every March or whatever it is, we take them out of school. They come be with dad, away from their friends, away from their activities. And so as a father, as a husband, thinking through like this is kind of like they've sacrificed a lot of their lives for me. Now it's time for me to start allowing them to do stuff they enjoy.
Do you think, Josh, that maybe today your older ones have started to appreciate, but do you think there will come a point when your kids will fully appreciate all the lessons they learned from the way you went about your career, even if they haven't kind of fully appreciated them today?
Oh yeah. Our 9-year-old daughter, she gets like her introspection from me. I think it's like just genetic or whatever, but she'll say stuff sometimes. And she was talking about something the other day, probably a month or two ago. And she mentioned to my wife and I, she goes, "We don't have a normal life." And we were like, "What?" She's like, "Well, most kids, like daddy plays baseball. Like that's daddy's job. Like nobody else that we know, nobody else's daddy plays baseball as their job. So like we don't have like we travel a lot more. Like we went to Korea because of daddy's job. We get to go to baseball games because of daddy's job." And so I think that they do realize it a little bit. And it's cool because I always wanted to be able to play long enough where they recognize how special that was. And I do think that they recognize it a little bit.
It's interesting. It's interesting, that she picked up on the fact that it's not normal. It's not what the typical parent is coming in with on bring your parent to work day. You must have been a big hit.
Yeah, this is a funny story. Before I announced my retirement, we were sitting in the car and somehow this upcoming season was brought up. And she like interjects and she says, "Daddy's not playing baseball next year." And my wife and I kind of looked at each other, turned around, we were like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Daddy hasn't even worked out or thrown yet. He's not playing." So like they noticed, like it's crazy how observant the kids are. And she had noticed that there was something off in the normalness, air quote normalness of my life of wake up, take him to school, come home, work out, throw, pick him up, go back to practice, so like they noticed something's off. And it's funny that she kind of made the decision for me, I guess, right?
It's so funny, Josh. I was just having a conversation yesterday with my wife about how perceptive kids are and that it's a great lesson that they're really watching and listening to a lot more than we maybe give them credit to. Yesterday, my youngest is almost 5, and we were doing some things around the house, and we had some music on, and my almost 5-year-old comes over to me and says, "Daddy, you like this song, right?" It was Tennessee Whiskey. I forget who it's by. Maybe it's Chris Stapleton. I forget.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, "I do like this song." And I realized, I said to my wife, I said, a few weeks ago, we were on a road trip and that song came on. And I just mentioned to my wife in the front seat, I said, I spent a lot of time in Nashville on business and doing some things in Nashville. And I said, when this song comes on in a Nashville bar, it's super cool. I've got like just such fond memories of being in a bar in Nashville, hearing this song. I didn't know my daughter was listening, but weeks later, just the music and the lyrics and the sound registered with her. It's such an important lesson that kids are listening and most importantly, watching.
I think that watching aspect is important. I don't know, obviously you're engaged in like leadership development, leadership circles. And so have you read the book, The Leadership Challenge by Kuz and Posner?
Yes. Oh yeah.
So the number one, I think the question was, they went and interviewed, X number of thousand leaders, and what were the 4 or 5 things that leaders did? And the number one was model the way. And so when you think about that, like the actions that we have as parents, the actions that we have as coaches or players or whatever it might be, the number one way that we lead people is by modeling the way. So it's just, it's interesting that you brought that up. I just thought of that when you said that.
Josh, you talked about obviously one of the experiences that you've had and your family has had is the travel. And you had the opportunity to go play in Korea. You played very, very well, not only in the major leagues, but also in Korea. I'm curious. I want to understand that a little bit. I mean, what's involved with a player from the U.S. going over to Korea, and what's that transition like?
It's a whole different world. I always tell people, if you ever an opportunity to go to Asia, go, because it's nothing like you'll ever experience in your life. And so I think, so 5 years, I made probably 14 international flights. We, tons of bags, but just the process. I always tell people, when you go to Asia, a lot of times, or go anywhere in the world, a lot of times the mindset we have is better or worse. It's very like this very binary. Is it better? Is it worse? And then I make my decision whether I like something, I'm better or worse. But when you're in the United States, you grow up in the United States, and then you go to foreign countries, you can't have that type of judgment. It's like comparing an apple to an airplane. It's just different. And you can't say better, you can't say worse. It's like Korea is different than Japan, is different than China, is different than the United States. And then you find things that you enjoy and that you like and maybe dislike, but a better or worse comparison is really, really unfair to that type of adjustment process. And so, one of the first things I did in Korea was, obviously the language is different. So I learned how to read the alphabet because I wanted to read a menu and know what I was eating. And so there's like these little things that make life way easier in that transition process that helps you.
What happens? I mean, give me just a glimpse into what happens. I mean, I'm trying to think through all the things that you've got to do to just get through a day as a professional baseball player in a country where you don't understand the language. So you learn the alphabet, but were you able to be conversational with teammates, with coaches? Were you able to get instruction from a pitching coach? How did that work?
We had a translator with us at the field pretty much at all times. And we had a very, very easy transition where I was at. I was in Seoul, which is basically, we lived in basically Times Square of Korea. The Gangnam video, the music video, part of the dance routine was filmed like on top of the place where we lived. So like pretty popular area. We take our elevator down. In our basement, we had Starbucks, McDonald's, Jamba Juice, Annie Ann's, Subway across the street. What else did we have? I mean, you get Outback on the border. So it's California Pizza Kitchen. So when I say transition, I had the easiest transition of all. But there is some places where like food is an issue. Like sometimes, you're in more of a Korean city, more traditional. And so like the food becomes a problem for some guys. The language, where I was at, everybody was willing and wanted to speak English. So like we could figure it out. Well, there's some areas in the countryside where that's not an option. So I learned where I was going to be at and then how much help that I needed in those situations.
Josh, you were extremely successful in Korea. You didn't just get by. You were very, very successful. The 2019 KBO League MVP award, after posting a 20-3 record with a 2.5 ERA over 194 and 2/3 innings. That's remarkable for anybody, but for someone who was going through that adjustment, navigating the language barrier, working with a translator, trying to get comfortable. What was your biggest key to success there? Because I think it applies to, you can apply it to baseball, but I think you can apply it to anything that anyone's trying to do when they're going through a transition, in their situation.
Yeah, I would say an openness to learning and having the humility to say, I don't know, were the two biggest things for me. I look back and I wanted to learn the culture. I wanted to know the culture. I knew I was entering into something that was new and different. And then having the humility to say, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't, I tell the story. The first game that I pitched, there were two players with the same name in the lineup. Lee Byung-gyu or Lee Byung-ho, I think it was, back to back. So I come in, I'm like, I call tie, get the one guy ends the inning, the next guy, same name, starts off the inning, and I'm like calling my translator out. I'm like, hey, it's the same guy. Like, you can't hit twice in the lineup. There's some new rule. And he's like, no, it's a different guy, same name. So like right there, I don't know everything. I don't know the players. I don't know the scouting reports. And I think any situation you go into, those two characteristics, those two qualities, willingness to learn and humility to say I don't know are so big.
So important. Josh, pitchers fascinate me. I'm always so interested to talk to pitchers because it's such a unique role in the sense that there's a lot of perceived downtime, right? I mean, if you're a starting pitcher, you pitch every fifth or sixth day. If you're a relief pitcher, you're called upon as needed. How do you get ready? How do you stay ready? How do those things come into play for you?
Yeah, I think that's really all you think about, you can look at the inverse of that and say, well, yeah, I only do perform once a week. And so you do have all this time for preparation. And for me, that was really what was most important, was the preparation. And so the vast majority of the work that I did, I think, I can't remember, starting pitcher would say that, the game was the fun part. For them, like the game was the fun part. That was when you got to go test the preparation, when you got to have fun, when you got to compete. And like the boring part, the part that stunk, was having to prepare those other 4 to 5 days. Because if you went out in the game and you stunk, you had to do it all over again and wait. So early on in my career, I had some great people around me that really helped me fall in love with preparation. They helped me understand a routine. They helped me understand what I needed to do, how my body responded to certain things. And so over the course of my career, I developed a pretty solid routine when it came to like what I needed to do each and every day, listening to my body, understanding the difference in pain and soreness, knowing how far I could push my body, when I could push my body. And that just came with time, really came with time and understanding myself.
Josh, what would you do on days or weeks or maybe extended periods of time when you didn't feel like you had your best? How did you keep moving forward in those moments where you didn't feel your best?
I would say that was when I learned to do that. That was what kind of separated, that's what catapulted my career, because the vast majority of performance, the vast majority of sport is trying to perform when you don't feel your best. I'd say about probably 80% of it. I had a pitching coach one time tell me, if you have 10 starts, one of them, you're going to get absolutely rocked. There's nothing you can do about it. One of them, the other team has nothing they can do, and you're going to absolutely dominate. What determines how you perform as a pitcher are those middle 8 when you are probably like 65 to 70%. And you look at like all the great pitchers, like that's what determines how good you are, is can I go get 18 outs? Can I go get 21 outs when I don't feel good? And you learn that you don't need your best stuff to compete. There's other ways to compete. There's other ways to try to find a way to win games, rather than when you just have electric no hit. It just doesn't matter what you throw. Guys are going to get themselves out.
I think that example, like a lot of what we're talking about, Josh, applies to almost anything. I mean, we're never kind of what we feel on our best day. We're never what we feel on our worst day. We're always somewhere in the middle, and navigating imperfect situations is really, I think, what it all comes down to. Staying on the topic of work ethic and learning to prepare, maybe you can validate this for me. I read a story that I think you shared about a conversation you had with outfielder Juan Pierre relatively early in your career about you being tired and trying to figure out how you get through it. Tell me about that conversation.
Yeah, it was probably, that was my first full year in the big leagues. Juan Pierre, like mythological work ethic. This guy's first one at the field at 9, 10 in the morning. He's already on his 4th shirt after the game till 2 in the morning. So like probably asking him wasn't the best, but Juan was one of the best teammates I ever had. And so first full year in the big leagues, I'm like top 10 maybe in appearances. And I'm gassed. We got a month left, my first September that I've ever pitched in. And go back to your last minute, it was like 20% on my fuel tank. And I'm trying to get major league hitters out. So over breakfast one morning, I asked Juan, I'm like, hey, like I'm tired, man. And he's like, big Southern, Louisiana draw, big Josh, everyone's tired. He's like, you got to find a way. He's like, everybody's tired. Nobody knows that you're tired. You just kind of got to fake it. Like you feel good. And you just got to get through this month, because that's what's going to determine the rest of your season. And so having guys like him, examples, talk about modeling the way, like the Major League Baseball season, professional baseball season is a long grind, like slow grind. The season starts mid-February And then now it's getting pushed back into late October. And that doesn't even include all the stuff you've got to do to prepare for that season. Moving into retirement now, I guess I never realized, because it was just something that I did, how much time it took to get ready for a 7 to 8 month season. You're talking about, it's a full-time job essentially. You're talking about, like I said, mentioned earlier, like drop the kids off at school at 7:30, make my cup of coffee, head to the gym at about 8, get home at 10:30, eat some breakfast or lunch or whatever, go back to play catch. Like, it's just long, long, long hours over the span of 15 years for me that kind of like wore me down, I guess.
I think one of the big misconceptions about professional baseball is that people show, pitchers and catchers report, let's say February 15th. And a lot of people think you just show up and you haven't done anything since, the team was eliminated from contention in the playoffs or the season ended. Couldn't be further from the truth these days. People are showing up to spring training complexes earlier than ever, and they're doing, all of their own work that you described there.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy now is I remember my first spring training, and there was still like this thought that like you use spring training to prepare for the season. So it's like it's February 15th, season doesn't start till April. We've got 6 months of games. You're even building up into the season. So like, we don't want you 100% on February 14th. Like, we want you 100% June, like hitting your stride June, July, August, when like divisions are starting to be determined, and even into September. But now, I mean, like, guys are midseason form showing up. Like, guys are showing up ready to make teams, ready to get guys out. And it's really, really hard. Really hard.
Josh, I'm curious. You mentioned a few minutes ago, I want to go back to something that you mentioned. When I brought up the conversation with Juan Pierre, you mentioned that he was one of the best teammates that you ever played with. When you think about Juan and some of the other people that you would put into that group of just fantastic teammates, what were some of the common qualities that you looked for in a great teammate?
I think all the great teammates that I had, in professional sports, it's hard because there is an aspect of selfishness to it, because guys' livelihood, guys' careers, that is on the line. But all the great teammates that I've had have been really, really comfortable in who they were as a player. They understood that by helping another teammate grow didn't necessarily make them better than they were going to be. It actually elevated everybody's performance. There's just like weird, it's almost like an inverse like relationship. Like, I think that as a teammate, if I root for and I cheer for another player on my team, then that person will become better than me. But it really, like, by focusing, by helping other teammates, it makes everybody better. And when everybody gets better, the performance rises, accountability rises. You hold yourself as a team to like a higher standard. So I would say that willingness and openness to help other people and to help other people grow and advance their careers, there's just this like quiet confidence that great teammates had, where they realize that me helping you is not going to affect my work ethic, my performance. Like, it helps our team because it requires everyone to be better.
If we flip that question, Josh, you've had the good fortune of a long career and an opportunity to mentor younger players as they grow their careers. And by all accounts, I mean, you are as good of a teammate and a good of a leader and someone who leads by example as anybody in the league. What were some of the things that you tried to impart on younger players who may have been struggling or going through some of those issues that maybe you experienced early on?
To tie those two questions together, a lot of it came back to what I learned from those guys. And so deep down inside of me, I felt that I had a sense of responsibility. Stewardship might be a good word, that I had these teammates that entrusted these lessons to me, these like very, very valuable lessons. And so first and foremost, I had a responsibility to pass those lessons down to teammates. And so responsibility, I think, was the first thing that I recognized. And then I just really tried to create spaces for guys to be honest, because there's all things that we hold on to in our minds that if we said out loud, people would think we were crazy. And when we have those safe places to share those things, what happens is that we're able to get that burden off of us. We're able to get that off of not carry it on our own. And then that frees up performance. So when you think about a team, like culture, team building, whatever you want to say it, like the formula is really, really simple. Sometimes we overcomplicate it. So when you have bad relationships, that leads to a high stress environment. And in a high stress environment, it's really, really hard to perform at a high level. When you have good relationships, that creates a low stress environment. And within a low stress environment, people can perform at their highest level. So all I was trying to do was just follow that formula where it was, I need to develop good relationships. I needed guys to be comfortable. I needed there to be low stress because I knew if that happens, we were going to perform well as a team. And so that was really all that I ever thought about, was like just developing relationships, developing trust, letting guys share, letting guys be open to share things with me that they wouldn't necessarily share with other people. And then, having that sense of like accountability to them where like this stays between you and I. So that's all I really ever tried to do, is just be like a safe spot for guys.
Josh, in your recent announcement about your retirement, you put out a tweet. You ended it with the phrase, I might be done, but I'm not finished. I'm curious, and you don't have to say if you haven't figured it all out yet, but I'm curious, have you thought about what's next? Or is this something that, obviously you're going to spend more time with your family as much as you possibly can. Have you thought about what might be next for you?
Yeah, I'm making a comeback. No, I'm kidding.
You heard it right here.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've always thought about. And I think that's part of the reason why I've been able to make this transition a little easier, is because I've thought about it. I knew, it's like taboo to talk about the end of your career. But as an athlete, it's literally like the one thing you can prepare for. So when you think about like of all the questions you have to answer, like every athlete knows my career is going to end at some point. But for some reason, we're told like, don't think about that. So it's like, I've always thought about, I need to be prepared for this because it's going to happen. Like it's in all of the craziness of professional sports, like it's the one question that I can prepare for. So I just took, the Brewers are going to bring me back as an assistant to player development. So I'll be able to be at home with my family, but there's going to be, some mentorship stuff, some leadership stuff that I'll be able to do with players. There's going to be some different roles that they're going to bring me in on to help with player initiatives, player projects. So that'll be, for the time being, allow me to stay in baseball. I don't know if baseball will be pro ball will be the thing, but I'm at a stage in my life where I need to like experience some different stuff. I need to understand. And sometimes it's more important to answer the question, what it's not going to be, than what it is going to be. And so this allows me to start to answer some of those questions.
Josh,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, and I signed a 2-year deal to be the president of our little league. So like I've got that going on too. So
I was just going to say, first, the Milwaukee Brewers players, everybody through their entire minor league organization is in great hands with you as a special instructor. But secondly, I also have to believe that there are some little kids out there somewhere who are going to get some great coaching in little league and t-ball, softball, whatever it is. And I got to believe that's going to bring a big smile on your face too.
Yeah, no, I love that. I've been coaching basketball this off season. I love it. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I do, but I love it. It's so much fun.
Gosh, this has been so much fun. We're going to have to check in from time to time to see how this next phase of your career is going. There is no question that you are a tarp puller. You have led by example every step of the way throughout your career, and I can't wait to see where things go next. Let's talk again soon. All right, my friend?
Yep, for sure. Let's do it.
Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew H. Moses. That's Andrew H. Moses. And be sure to sign up for my email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today is a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.